Now, Nigeria's inflation rate dropped to 18.02% in September 2025, down from 20.12% in August, marking the sixth consecutive month of decline. This is significant because it's the first time in 3 years that the inflation rate has fallen below the 20% mark. But what does this really mean for the average Nigerian household? Food prices truly coming down at the market level, or are we merely seeing statistical effects? And with the central bank having recently cut interest rates for the first time in 5 years, what should we expect in the months ahead? To help us unpack these numbers and their implications for ordinary Nigerians, we are joined by Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu, seasoned economist. Dr. Ekechukwu, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much, Musa.
Okay, when I was reading that introduction, there's this comparison. I mean, because each time we talk about inflation, the perception is about, okay, prices have actually gone down. On paper, that's the Bureau of Statistics. Now, going down to the streets, thus the 18.02% actually reflects in the prices of goods we see in our markets. That's the question that the ordinary man is asking, and I'm putting it to you, Dr. Ekechukwu.
Okay, before we look at whether these prices have reflected what an average consumer sees in the marketplace, I think it is a welcome development to see that even on paper that our inflation rate is dropping to up to 18.02. Recall that year on year, around this time last year, the inflation rate was as high as about 32.6 or thereabouts. And so from then till now, for us to have that rate reduced to 18.02% is a very good development. However, if we also look at month on month, we are still growing. We are still doing better, in terms of inflation rate. It's a long time we saw the rates come lower than 20%, like you said. But when we also look at the benchmark for the budget for 2025, we haven't reached where we're supposed to be, which is supposed to be 15%. When we look at the inflation average for Africa, we are still not there yet, because that average is about 4.5, 4.8. And so we need to work towards getting to the African average and achieve that. As a matter of fact, it's our figure that is actually making the average to look a little higher. So we still have a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
Coming to whether the average man on the street is experiencing lower prices of goods and services, what I can tell you is the fact that an average man is experiencing some stability in prices, stability in cost of doing business. Before now, we didn't have that kind of stability. Before now, you could go to the market today, buy things, and the next day you go to the same market, the prices will have increased, but we have some level of stability right now. It is only from stability that you start having some reduction in prices, which is actually what may have informed this marginal reduction in inflation rates.
Now, the data shows we have recorded our first month-on-month food deflation in over 13 years, actually negative 1.57%. What factors do you think are driving this decline?
There are a good number of factors. When in some items you see that we still have high prices of agricultural products, which dovetail into food. I had a discussion with somebody from Benue State, the state that produces, or they used to produce the highest amount of yams in the past. Told me that all those markets that used to sell yams have been so deserted. And of course, he traveled recently, and I asked him to get some yams from his state. He said, "Oh God, those yams are no longer where we used to find them." Now, so it will take a while for those prices to come back to where they used to be. And then, but of course, it has not stopped farming, and we are still expecting that, yes, the prices of yams are still high and some other agricultural items, but they will still someday come down if other factors that are responsible for them remain constant. So we expect that some of these things have to be corrected in the long run. But for today, we still have prices of agricultural products as high as we can imagine.
Now, how much of this recent decline can be attributed to improved food supply versus exchange rate management by the central bank?
Many times people think exchange rate does not affect food supply or prices of goods and of food in the market. It does a lot more because many of the things we eat today are still imported. Some analysis or some research done show that the consumption of palm oil in the country, we have about 60% of that imported palm oil that is supposed to be our major mainstay in the country. So you see that we still import palm oil, we still import a lot of food items. The rice today we are seeing in the market, a lot of them are still imported. And so as far as we continue to import, and we have to use exchange rates, foreign currency to buy these items, we are going to continue to have inflation rates remaining as high as the exchange rate still can keep us. Right now, the exchange rate is still high, even though coming down gradually, but still high compared to where we used to be some years back. So if those rates remain so, you see that it will be difficult for inflation rate to continue to drop to the extent I mentioned, the African average. So we still have our food items subsidized by importation. We still cannot produce enough to meet the local market. That is why we have high costs of some of the items because of the exchange rates of the market.
Now some analysts are actually attributing this development to the base effect. That's what they call it. But I don't know. What's your position about this?
It is not about it. I mean, when we look at base effect is the fact that we're looking at what we have done in the papers. No, that's not it. We are looking at the realities of today. We're looking at the realities of today, knowing that the exchange rate remains as high as we can. And again, you see that even when you want to access this exchange, this foreign currency, it's not relatively available for anybody who wants to use the foreign currency. And so we're talking about realities. We're talking about realities. The realities show that we still do not have enough to be able to import. So we are going to have some reprieve if most of the items that come as our basic food items are produced locally. If there is no particular item you mentioned, except probably something like beans, that you can say we have enough for the local market. But otherwise, most of the items mentioned today that are the reason for high costs are still partly imported into the country, and that is just why we have what we have.
Now, when you look at the central bank at its last monetary policy committee meeting, they have reduced the interest rate by 50 basis points. Do you think that is the right move at this particular point in time, looking at we are just seeing, a kind of gradual deceleration of inflation?
Yeah, well, the fact that the MPR continues to drop, even marginally, was a welcome development. But I expected a more decelerated rate at that time, and I expect that the next MPC will be able to propose a more reduced MPR.
More than 50% basis point?
Well, yes. If it is more than 50%, that's still okay. The reason for this is that the more we continue to see a high MPR, or even if we retain it at this rate, the more difficult it is for people to access funds, and the more expensive it is to access funds. And, when banks see those, all they do is just to pass over the costs to an average borrower from the bank. And so that also dovetails into another cost of doing business. So there are various drivers of inflation rates, which we know. Cost push, has been the major problem that we've always had in areas of petroleum product, areas of interest rate, areas of exchange rate, and many other areas. Of course, when we get closer to December right now, we're going to be seeing demand pool, where people are going to be going to the market to look for items to buy for the season. In order to forestall that, what we'll do is just to ensure that there's enough supply in the market so that there won't be any scarcity of some of the items for that particular period. So when we do that, we're able to cushion the impact of that demand pool. So in order for price to be stabilized a little.
The CBN governor at the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, last Monetary Policy Committee meeting, talked about the target is a single-digit inflation figure. With the conditions we have on ground, do you think we can possibly achieve a single-digit inflation figure?
Once there is a will, then it's possible. If they say this is what they want to achieve.
But do the conditions we have on ground permit
obviously, with the things we have on ground, that is not going to be possible, at least in the short run. In the long run, it is possible because, I mean, if other countries can achieve that, we can also achieve it. And of course, if they work towards bringing everything down, bringing the rates down, we are still going to achieve that. But in the long run, in the short run, that is not going to be possible. Sometime next year, yes, we expect that it is possible to achieve that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. It's been a pleasure having you in the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.